Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Really exciting episode today of Be Better Golf. On with me, I have John Erickson from Northern California. Hey John.
Hi.
John became really well known in the world of golf instruction from kind of being on the sidelines to being really a front and center in the. What would you say, John, was kind of like the peak interest in you and your ideas about how to teach the golf swing?
Yeah, I started at the Advanced Ball Striking site in 2009, and I was actually the first internet golf instructor in the world. It was me. I was the first one to do it. I was teaching online, and people thought I was crazy. They're like, "What do you mean you're teaching golf online? Online? Like it was like, you can't do that." But I set up a course and started teaching. So it actually started out pretty well because I don't know if you were familiar with the IC golf thread. It went viral in 2008, I think. There were like 400,000 views, kind of like what you're doing now,
Yeah.
right? So, but this was like back in 2008, and that was an Australian-based site that was based upon the golfing machine, and I was one of the early test subjects of that with Bobby Clampett and a few other guys back in the late 70s when I was a junior player. So anyway, I hadn't played golf in maybe 10 or 12 years, 13 years. I retired from the tour in 1993. And then in 2006, I saw a golf course that looked interesting. And in Mare Island, the old Navy course is built in 1892, oldest golf course west of the Mississippi. And I was taking the ferry to San Francisco. I see this golf course on the hill, and I was like, wow, that looks old school, tight, big tree, cypress trees, all that. So I went out there and played, and I just showed up, and I said, how much is it to play? And they said, if you wait 15 minutes, it's $7. I was like, 3 o'clock or whatever. Well, I can get around this place in 3 hours. But anyway, so that's kind of how it started. So I started playing, and it was the first time that I'd actually played for no reason other than just love of the game. I mean, I wasn't on a team. I wasn't playing as a pro. I wasn't competing. And I kind of fell in love with golf again. I was like, wow, I miss golf, I hadn't played for so long after I retired. I just, did other things. I became like a regular person. I jumped online, and I was kind of curious if the golfing machine was still around. Like, was that being taught? Was anyone doing that anymore? And I found a website that was based out of Australia called IC Golf. And it was a golf machine, TGM-based site. It was pretty big. So I contacted, I think Paul Smith was the owner of the site, and he welcomed me onto the site. He said, yeah, we'd love to hear what you have to say about it. And so I started, discussing the golfing machine and, my interaction with it as a youth and how I went through the process of that.
John was an elite, super great child prodigy golfer. He learned from some super famous names. Super. Let me know if any of this is wrong, but I think that's true. And then he learned from some super famous names in golf instruction. Was the original test subject for whether or not Homer Kelly's theories could work in the real life.
Yeah, that's correct.
Went on to play golf at a really high level at Fresno State, right?
I was an All-American there, yeah.
And then
the conference
after that went on to play on the PGA Tour of Australia, and then also the Canadian Tour, and then retired in 1993. After how many years were you playing professionally?
I played 7 years, and that was a pretty good career. I mean, I had full exemptions. I didn't quit because I got thrown off or didn't. I was just tired.
Right.
I was traveling so much, and
Yeah.
I could see my future being, I was going to be one of these guys that was kind of a journeyman player. I'd be in my 40s still chasing the sunsets, trying to, win the elusive tournament. And I didn't putt good enough. I was a good putter. I guess if, you just went out amateurs, we go around and putt around 18 holes or something, I'm going to be okay. But at that level, I'll give you an example. When I won the Windsor Charity Classic, on the Canadian Tour in 1991, I broke Mo Norman's tournament record, from what I understand. I shot 17 under, beat Bradley Hughes by a shot. This is crazy. I missed 4 greens in 4 days. So I hit 18 greens the first round, 17 the second, 17 the third, and 16 the final round because I was a bit nervous.
Yeah.
So And I was never under 30 putts. Okay, I shoot 17 under. I was never on a par 5 and 2 all week because this was in the persimmon era. It was 3-shot holes, so there were no 2-putt birdies, right? I mean, it would be an interesting statistic, but when's the last time somebody has won a tour event, on a major tour anywhere in the world that didn't have a round under 30 putts? Maybe I was the last one. Maybe.
So then, after you played professionally, you didn't play golf for a long time. Then you started thinking like
13 years.
All that stuff I learned with the golfing machine are people still talking about that, and they were still a huge buzz of interest in it. So then you got back into golf instruction, and then people got real interested in your experience.
I was never a golf instructor. I was never a golf instructor. I was a player. That was it. I never taught. I never had any ambition of teaching, nor thinking about teaching. But what happened was when this thread went viral, and I think there were like 400,000 views, whatever, and there was a little bit of an issue between the owner of the site and myself, where I said a couple things that weren't in favor of the golfing machine. I kind of said, I think some things weren't right, actually, about the golfing machine. And if anyone would know, it would be me, because I was one of the test subjects. I'm actually out there testing this stuff. And I had some issues with a couple things. And he said, John, you can't say anything bad about the golfing machine on this site. And I said, look, I'm here. I'm not charging you. I'm just posting, and I found it enjoyable and helpful, hopefully helping people. But anyway, he blocked it. He shut down the thread with like 400-something thousand views, and people were upset, So 35 emails in my mailbox the next morning saying, hey, will you teach us this stuff? And I was like, okay. I mean, I like to help people. I mean, I can. So I thought, well, I'll try and put something together, that would be my take, on improving upon. I don't mean to sound arrogant here, but I think I did, improve upon the golfing machine. Just like I think Mac O'Grady would say the same thing, with Morad. He was a golf machine guy too, and he came up with a system that he felt was better than the golfing machine.
If people just have like total novice to these ideas at all, what is the golfing machine? What does even that mean?
Well, the golfing machine was a book written by a scientist, I guess. I think Homer Kelly was the guy that wrote it. He worked in maybe aerospace or something in Seattle, maybe at Boeing or something like one of the companies that was up there, and a very, very intelligent man. And he decided to just break down the golf swing into 24 components and variations, and basically say, here's 128 different ways of swinging a golf club or whatever that are all geometrically and fundamentally correct and that sort of thing. So it was a customization thing. You could say, okay, I do this, I do that, it was quite an interesting book. And then there was a guy named Ben Doyle, which a lot of people would know about. And Ben was the first authorized instructor of the golfing machine, so Homer Kelly kind of anointed him, to be. And then Greg McHatton, I think shortly after that, was Greg was my teacher also. I worked with both Ben Doyle and Greg, and these are both great instructors. They're fantastic. As a young player, I mean, I have to give them both credit for my success. I would say through college, But when I got on the pro tour, kind of different. I'm playing in the Australian Open, and I got Greg Norman hitting balls behind me, and Sandy Lyle, just won the Masters, hitting in front of me, and the sound. Okay, when these guys were hitting the ball, we're still in the persimmon and blade era, right? But I mean, the sound it was like explosions going off. And my little golfing machine kind of swinging centrifugal force, kind of thing that I'd been taught from the swingers side of the golfing machine. Nah, it
wasn't. You weren't compressing the ball like them, or was it just a club head speed thing, or the compression was different?
No, well, what I didn't know at the time, right. I didn't. What I did know is that these guys were playing golf at a different level than I had seen. Okay. Maybe Sam Randolph had played like that in college a little. He was a tremendously talented player in college, But outside of maybe a couple guys, really just Sam, I would say. But this was a different thing. So when I came home, I was making cuts, I'm making money, I'm making a living, but I'm not. Yeah, if I went head to head with these guys on Sunday or something, I did get paired with David Graham, who had won, I think, U.S. Open, PGA Championship, and Bob Shearer, who'd maybe won quite a few times on the PGA Tour. I got paired with them in the final round at the South Australian Open in Adelaide, at West End. I think the West End Open. And Greg Norman was playing right behind me. He was number 1 in the world at the time. So that was the first time that I, was escorted by like the police from the driving range to the first tee, like crowds. And Greg Norman came in on a helicopter, lands on the driving range, and helicopter door opens, his entourage comes out, and his sports psychologist and his fitness person, and or whatever, and they're all his lawyer or whatever, they're all coming. And I was just young 23-year-old pro, and I was just like, a little like rent-a-wreck car or whatever, just get down to the tournament. I think my car like stalled on the way down there or something, but we're both on the range. He's hitting right next to me, and it's like, okay, I think we were tied, going in the final round, or maybe he was a shot ahead. We were, right there. He was playing the group behind me. The thing that was interesting about that, Greg Norman's number 1 in the world, right? I'm a unknown rookie, okay? And so when he's having an off week, like Greg Norman is playing the worst he's playing all year, and I'm playing towards the best that I'm playing all year, that's where we meet. Greg's at his worst, I'm at my best, and but it was kind of cool to think that for 3 rounds I'm tied, with the number 1 player in the world in a professional tournament.
Sure.
I mean, I'm 23 years old. I'm thinking I've got a bright future. But I remember asking David Graham. I think I shot like 76 or something. Didn't play very well the last round, and I still made a decent check, but I didn't. I think the back 9. Maybe I remember birdieing the 9th hole, and I was on television down there, and it was the people I was staying with. Hey, we saw you on television and everything, and I hit a real nice shot, and they're like 10 feet or something, and made birdie. But I think the back 9, I maybe shot like 3 or 4 over or something. I had maybe a double or something.
I mean, what I wanted to talk to you mostly about, and I'm going to be coming up to see you to do this in person, but really what I want to talk about mostly is about ball control. Like, what are most golfers doing do you think, that is stopping them from being able to control the ball? Because even as equipment has gotten a lot better, people are still really, really struggling with making the golf ball go where they want to, even with all the best equipment in the world. And other people have come on the channel and said that it's kind of, and you've said this to me a little bit about my swing, it's kind of like the action that people are using through the impact zone always seems to be a little bit too, like the timing is off. Like it's a little too either flippy or rolling release or something like that. What can people do, generally speaking, to start controlling the golf ball more and make the game more fun for everybody?
Well, the key to hitting a golf ball well is to control the club shaft, right? Because the club head is attached to the club shaft. So you've got to really understand the shaft and what you're trying to do there. Okay. And the master strikers, what they did is they held shaft flex all the way to impact. Okay. So in other words, you start here straight, you go to the top of your swing, and then as you change directions, the shaft starts to flex because you're pressuring the shaft, right? So now you're coming down like this, but if you go too fast from the top, then at some point acceleration reaches 0, meaning not velocity, but you're no longer accelerating. So in other words, if I'm going, 0, 10, 20, 30, 50, 60, 80, 90, 100, 100, 100, 100, acceleration reached 0 here, okay? Now, the great strikers, what you would do is you want to set up your swing so that you are starting slower and increasing the velocity down. Now, easier said than done. Okay, why is that? Because if I take a hammer, it's a lot easier for me to develop velocity from the top down towards the ground, right? It's easy to go bam. What's harder would be to take that hammer and develop acceleration from impact up towards the finish. See, I really want to be moving faster here than I do here. Okay? So people over accelerate, and that is the problem. And the people think that the shortest way to the golf ball is the best way. So when they're at the top of their swing, they take the path of shortest travel, and they move their hands directly towards the ball, which is an over-the-top swing, and it shortens the radius, shortens the circumference of the golf swing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of misunderstanding. I think a lot of it is getting to an understanding of what you need to do, and then try and engineer it. And that's what I've done in my teaching, is just I reverse engineer it. I just say, look, this is what we're trying to do. Now, what does the body then have to do to achieve this objective of holding shaft flex into the golf ball? It's not a concept that people are talking about. And one of the problems with it is, I'm going to say it, these TrackMan machines and flight scopes and this sort of thing. I might be wrong, but from what I understand, these machines are analyzing the ball. Okay? They're saying that if the ball is spinning at this rate and at this angle, like, the pole is slightly off a degree or whatever, then they're reverse engineering, and then they're saying that the golf club must have been doing this. The club face must have been open, shut. But the machine is looking at the spin of the ball and saying, okay, it's saying, we know the ball speed, we know the rotation of this, and we know the axis that it's spinning on.
Yeah.
If they're saying that, okay, if the ball is doing this, then the club must have been doing that. Now, the question is, would there be different ways of creating that same ball flight? In other words, if the ball is spinning at a certain rate and a certain axis, blah, blah, could I get that same ball velocity with less club head velocity, but more mass in the head?
Okay.
Let's just talk about holding shaft flex for a second. What does that really mean? Okay, what that means is that if you're accelerating, in other words, if your hands are moving faster than the club head through the strike, okay, then you're going to be holding shaft flex. Now, if that's happening, what you can actually feel the club head.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can also feel, like, in your downswing, if you can feel that you've over accelerated and then it started drooping past you, and you're like, oh, it's gonna hook it, and you're like, and then you try to go like this to hold it off. Yeah. Right.
That's exactly right. I'll make it as simple as possible here. There's basically, everybody's gonna feel a pressure going this way. We'll call that like a centrifugal force, like something moving away from the center. Or
like the club pulling out of your hands, you mean? Yeah.
Yes, pulling out of your hands. Yeah, away from the center. If you let go of the club, it's going to move away from you. Okay, we all feel that. Okay, we're all going to feel that. Even if we decelerate, even if we're losing acceleration on the way down, we still, if we let go of the club, it moves away. But the great strikers felt a pressure this way. Okay, like this way.
Like this, like in that pressure point the golfing machine talks about on the index finger.
Yeah.
On there.
That would be, so rather than feeling just a pressure this way that's pulling against our hands this way, we want to have a pressure that we're feeling this way.
Yeah.
Okay, because now if we're in our hands, if we're pressuring the shaft this way, okay, because we got more mass in the head here and we're feeling the pressure in our hand here, well, now we feel that pressure in our hands. And I can feel exactly where the club face is at. Yeah. Because I feel my hands. I can feel if the club face is here, or here, or here. And that pressure in the shaft puts pressure in my hands and into my arms, into my core. And now I'm hitting the ball from my core, and I can feel from my core all the way
into the club face. And this is
like if you had a sledgehammer that you're dragging a mop or a sledgehammer that you're dragging across the ground. That's
think of a sledgehammer. Now, if you take that sledgehammer, it's not easy to accelerate it initially. It's heavy. It takes more time to get it going. But once you get it going, it's easy to actually keep pressure on and just continue to keep pressuring on it. And you don't need to turn the body so fast. Okay? So, interesting that the heaviest driver I ever saw was one of the greatest strikers in the history, Mo Norman. Okay? In Canada, people may or may not know who Mo Norman is, but they should. But I got to know Mo playing on the Canadian Tour, and we go to the back of his car, he'd start pulling out clubs, we'd talk about what he had. His driver was 16 ounces. 16 ounces.
What's a regular one?
The dead. I think, when I was playing on tour with a fairly heavy persimmon, I was 13 and a half to 14.
Oh, wow.
But I think a lot of the modern drivers are like 11 ounces. And they're maybe even less, 10 and a half to 11 ounces. And the shafts are, what do you swing, a 45-inch shaft?
Yep.
In your driver? Okay, so you got a 45-inch shaft, so the club is longer, the head is bigger, and it's lighter. And you can take a rip at that thing. So that's why that, in combination with the solid core, the plastic golf balls that they're using now, that's why the ball's going 15% farther, and it's changed the game. Regardless of that, it doesn't change this thing. When we're dealing with the lightweight clubs, even you see this on the Pro Tour, I think everybody would agree that the modern players are not driving the ball as straight as they did in the past. You see guys hitting 40. I think Phil Mickelson a couple years ago hit 38% of his fairways one week, and he won the tournament.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That wasn't happening. That wasn't happening. If I'm going to play good, I want to.
What do you think the key thing is for people to try to start thinking about because I feel like the main problem in golf instruction from the schools that we do and everything else is that there still hasn't been a rock solid way to get people away from over accelerating and then getting into a flip condition at impact. So what do you think people need to start thinking to start getting the club lagging, like you say, like lag pressure through impact rather than it's dumped off and you got nothing.
My one recommendation would be shorten your backswing and swing hard. Just feel like you're just taking it halfway back and just go at it. That's going to give you the best chance of holding shaft flex longer to your low point.
Okay.
If you start taking a really long backswing, it's just too tempting to come down fast, and you lose shaft flex on the way down, and then you can't feel the club face anymore. The other thing about the modern drivers themselves is the construction of them. So when you have perimeter weighted and even perimeter weighted irons as well, you can't feel where you hit the ball on the club face as well as you could with the blade irons of the past, or with the persimmon driver with a 3-inch wide head and a piece of lead like your thumb right behind where the ball is at, like right there. That allowed you could play in the dark. Like you could go out at night and it could be pitch dark and you could hit and you go, oh, I hit that one right. Or I hit that one left, and you would walk out and know where your ball is. And I used to play at night sometimes, like in high school and stuff. We grab a couple beers and go out and play golf at night, or just like fun or whatever. Bring your girlfriends down there, just have, But I always knew where I was hitting it. Like it'd be dark, but I knew where the ball was because I could feel it. You could feel that center of the lead. But with the modern clubs, not so much, right? So you can't really tell where you're hitting it on the face or where it's going. So, but given that is the new game, well, I would try and teach people to hit it far, And so we still want to have good rotation. There's a lot of good golf swings on the tour, I would say they're very good. And I think if you gave the guys the old gear, they would adjust to it pretty quick, 6 months maybe a year, but they'd be pretty good, because you see guys turning, right? You see good rotation, but where they're lacking is the disconnect Okay, into the arms are moving independent of the rotation. But with the heavier gear, they'd figure that out real fast. Just like if you picked up a sledgehammer, you can't just go like this with it.
Yeah.
And now you're going to pick it up, and then after 6 months, guess what? Your muscles start getting stronger. Yeah. It's like, oh, gee, look at my, Mo Norman, like his left side. I mean, it was almost like deformed looking.
Okay.
I remember seeing him like take his shirt off one time, and it looked like, his whole left side. It was.
Yeah.
Just looked like almost a freak kind of a body, So the muscles, develop and acclimate. That's what humans do. That's what we do. We acclimate to the changes. And just as the modern players are doing, they're acclimating to the gear that they're using. And I think that they're doing a good job, because in the modern game, what do you want? You want to hit it far. You want to be really sharp with your short irons. You want to be a great short iron or wedge player. You need a driver swing. You need a short iron swing. And then the short game is still, you got to chip and putt, right? The greens are different. It's a little different technique on the greens, but you still got to putt good. And if you can't putt good, forget it, right? If you're not a good putter, you're going back to working at the pro shop.
So final, I would just want to let people know that we have a lot of stuff planned with John. I'm going to be going up there with my my friend Mike is going to come up with me. And we're going to be filming with John at, we have a couple of different things planned, but I think you'll really like it. So stay tuned to Be Better Golf. Make sure that you're subscribed to this channel. John has an Instagram you can go to. What's the name of your Instagram that people can follow? Do you know?
Well, yeah, there's two things, Advanced Ball Striking, and the old Advanced Ball Striking website is now back online, and it's moved to a modern platform. All you have to do is go to advancedballstriking.com. And it'll take you to the homepage. Click on the forum, and all that great 50 gigabytes of amazing material and study of the golf swing that developed for years is all back on a modern platform. You can use it on your iPhone. You can scroll through it. You can pick. It's fantastic. And I want to give a big thumbs up to William Hanisch for doing that for us and making this happen. So we're back online. It's good. And then Instagram, I think the Advanced Ball Striking.
All one word.
On Instagram, there's a YouTube Advanced Ball Striking, and there's also a Facebook for me. I think it's just John Erickson.
Okay, cool.
I have a Facebook. There's some discussion there too. So
we'll be doing some more stuff with John coming up, and stay tuned to that. And any questions you guys have, put them in the comments to this video, and I'll make sure we address those when we're up in NorCal.
And be nice,
yeah,
everybody.
Be nice. All right.
Be nice.
All right. Thanks, John. Bye.